Welcome back. Now, earlier today, Justice Minister Ronald Lamola criticized Deputy Chief Justice Raymond Zondo's application for another extension of the state capture inquiry as unconstitutional. The minister wanted the High Court to cap the Commission's future costs at 15 million rand, but we now understand that the minister has in fact withdrawn his application to intervene. So let's bring in Lawson Naidoo, who's the Executive Secretary for the Council for the Advancement of the South African Constitution. Mr. Naidoo, thank you for making time. We were going to talk to you about the reasons that the Justice Department has given for criticizing this fifth extension by the Deputy Chief Justice. But I'm looking at the document now that indicates that the minister has now withdrawn that application. It says, kindly take notice that the intervening party withdraws its application against the applicant. So this is dated today. Do you know what's going on here?
Good afternoon, Clement. Thank you very much. No, I don't know what's going on, but I think we can start with the application that the minister filed yesterday, seeking leave to intervene in the matter. And it was clear from that application that Deputy Chief Justice Zondo had not made arrangements for the additional funding that would be required in terms of this latest extension that he is seeking. And on the basis that the Department of Justice were clearly not in a position to fund the 3-month extension that is being requested, that the minister sought leave to intervene. Why the sudden change of heart this afternoon, we can only speculate, but perhaps there's been some agreement between the parties about that funding requirement. But I think this, it really highlights, Clement, the nature of the application that Deputy Chief Justice Zondo has made. This is now the 5th application for an extension since the Commission of Inquiry got underway 3 years ago. And it's the 3rd such extension this year alone. And, CASEC has been a party to these proceedings all along. And whilst we have submitted a notice to abide by the decision of the court, we have submitted an affidavit requesting the Deputy Chief Justice to provide the court with additional information that will allow the court to come to a reasonable conclusion on this matter. So he needs to assure the court that he has the required funding for the extension, that he needs to take the court into his confidence about how this extra 3 months is now going to be used. Because we know in the previous extension that was filed at the end of June, Justice Zondo said that he would be calling 5 or 6 additional witnesses apart from President Ramaphosa. He's not called those witnesses and hasn't explained why. In this latest application, he says that he may have to grant cross-examination to 1 or 2 people without specifying who they might be. So there's lots of vagueness in this application, and our view is that the Deputy Chief Justice needs to provide the court with much more information to enable the court to come to a decision as to whether or not to grant this extension.
Yeah, and let's hope in the coming minutes we'll get to understand why the Justice Department has decided to withdraw that application. But what I'm picking up here is that if this extension may actually cost more money, is that part of the information you would want the Deputy Chief Justice to provide? Because what the Justice Minister said in the application that is now withdrawn is that the High Court must cap the Commission's future cost at 15 million rand. And the question then is that even going to be enough?
Well, we don't know because, unfortunately, neither the State Capture Commission nor the Minister of Justice have given any basis for why, any amount of funding would be reasonable. So the 15 million that the Minister of Justice proposed yesterday is not based on any objective criteria or any assessment of what the costs might actually be. And Deputy Chief Justice Zondo has similarly not indicated what funding would be required for a 3-month extension and whether proper arrangements have been made with the Department of Justice for those funds. So the court is very much in the dark in terms of considering this application from the Deputy Chief Justice, and that's why in our affidavit, we said that that he needs to provide the court with that level of information. So if the court does grant the extension, they know that it's been granted on the basis that the funding is available. We accept that it's probably reasonably necessary for the extension to be granted, because after all this time, we need to have this report and as soon as possible. But if it is going to take another 3 months, then that's unfortunately something that we're going to have to live with. But we really need to make sure that this 3 months is going to be properly spent in terms of finalizing that report.
And that's the important point, right? Because you don't want the Deputy Chief Justice to rush this report and not do a proper work. But equally so, you don't want him to spend too much time working on this final report, because it's costing more money. And South Africans just want finality to this matter. They want to know what the recommendations are so we can make amends where we can and move forward. It's cost us almost R1 billion. It's taken about 3 years, and it wasn't meant to take so long. Do you get a sense that the Deputy Chief Justice appreciates that, the need for urgency on this matter, but equally so, that he also must be afforded enough time to do a proper job? Because whether we like it or not, the reality is what has been uncovered by the state capture inquiry has been so massive, and I don't think any of us actually expected it to uncover so much and do so much extensive work.
No, indeed, it's done a significant amount of work, and we mustn't forget that when we look at this issue. Opening the door and lifting the lid on the extent of state capture and corruption in the public sector has been a huge task that the Commission has undertaken. It has done incredibly well in exposing that. But I'm sure that the Deputy Chief Justice is acutely aware of the public impatience around this report, which has been pending for some time now. As I said, when they approached the courts at the end of June, he indicated that he would have a report ready in good time by the end of September, and has not explained to the court adequately why that was not possible and why a further extension is now necessary. And it's not, it really cannot be for the Deputy Chief Justice simply to make an application and expect the courts to grant his request without him providing sufficient information to the court to reach a proper conclusion, because otherwise they just kowtowing to whatever the Deputy Chief Justice asks.
Yeah. Lawson Naidoo, the Executive Secretary for the Council for the Advancement of the South African Constitution. Thank you for making time. I really appreciate it. Let's move to this.